Ever felt like life throws a lot at you and you're just missing some fundamental instructions on how to cope? That nagging feeling of, why has nobody told me this before? When you stumble upon, a crucial insight. If that resonates at all, then this deep dive is absolutely for you. Today, we're taking a deep plunge into the brilliant, incredibly practical wisdom of Dr. Julie Smith's book, aptly titled, Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? She's a clinical psychologist who she really specializes in demystifying complex mental health concepts, turning them into actionable everyday life skills that, well, they truly make a difference.
Yeah, and our mission today is really to extract the most potent nuggets from her work. We're going to challenge some pervasive misconceptions about mental health, unpack how our minds and bodies truly operate, and ultimately equip you with a powerful, accessible mental health toolbox. This isn't just about reacting when things go wrong, is it? It's about proactively building resilience and fostering a deeper capacity to thrive every single day.
Okay, let's start by reframing how many of us have traditionally viewed mental health. Because for so long, we've been taught to believe that experiencing strong, painful emotions signifies some kind of inherent flaw, like in our brain or personality. Dr. Smith offers a really different perspective. She argues that often it's not a fault at all. Instead, it's a simple lack of education about how our minds work and, maybe more importantly, how to actually manage our mental health day to day.
Exactly. What she presents is truly insightful. She draws this powerful analogy comparing working on your mental health to working on your physical health. You wouldn't wait until you're, quote, unwell to exercise or try to eat well, right? So she suggests that building mental resilience is less like paying rent, a temporary fix, and more like paying a mortgage. It's a solid, long-term investment in your future self. And this fundamentally shifts the idea that emotions are flaws. Instead, they're simply sensations, they're messengers. And we often have far more power to influence those messages than we typically realize.
That makes so much sense, framing it as an investment, not just putting out fires. And it brings us to a crucial point, how our feelings are actually created. Imagine you wake up after a late night, you haven't had enough sleep, maybe you're dehydrated, and your alarm is just brutally annoying. Suddenly, you're hit with dread, irritation, and sheer exhaustion. You might immediately think, is it slow mood? Did it just come from my brain out of nowhere?
Yeah, and a critical question arises right there. How are these seemingly isolated experiences all linked? Dr. Smith brilliantly illustrates what she terms the downward spiral of low mood. She shows how your physical state, your relationships, your lifestyle choices, your diet, even your thoughts, they all interact. It's a constant, complex feedback loop. It's never just all in your head because it's deeply interwoven with your body, your environment, everything you do, and, well, everything you don't do. To grasp this interconnectedness, she introduces tools like the cross-sectional formulation, which is essentially a detailed snapshot of how your thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, and behaviors are all interacting in a specific moment. This helps us visualize not just how we get stuck in these cycles, but also critically, the way out. As she emphasizes, simply gaining awareness is always the very first step toward meaningful change. It has to be.
That concept of a snapshot is so helpful for untangling those complex feelings. It makes it manageable. Now, one of Dr. Smith's most compelling points is how our minds, especially when we're feeling low or anxious, often play tricks on us. She identifies several common thought biases that actually make us feel worse. For example, there's mind reading, where you assume what others are thinking without any real evidence, like, she hasn't called because she hates me. We've all done that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Then there's overgeneralization, taking one single event and applying it broadly. Spoil some milk and suddenly this whole day is ruined. Or even worse, failing an exam means my future is ruined. Just like that.
It escalates so quickly.
Totally. There's also the mental filter, where you focus exclusively on negative information and completely ignore the positive, like scanning through dozens of positive social media comments just to find that one negative one to dwell on.
Yeah, zooming right in on it.
Exactly. And finally, catastrophizing, jumping straight to the worst possible scenario. She talks about her own vivid personal experience climbing the Leaning Tower of Pisa and being utterly convinced she was about to die.
Right, and stepping back to consider the broader context, these biases are, well, they're completely normal human tendencies. We all engage in them to varying degrees. However, they really intensify when our mood is low or we're experiencing anxiety. They get louder. Dr. Smith explains that the power lies not in trying to stop these thoughts from happening entirely, because, well, good luck with that, but in seeing them for what they are,
biased guesses, not undeniable facts.
Biased guesses, I like that.
Yeah. She introduces practical tools like metacognition, which just means stepping back to observe your thoughts as an outside observer, like they're on a screen. Another technique is using distanced language. So saying, I'm having thoughts about making a fool of myself instead of, I am going to make a fool of myself. See the difference?
Yeah, it creates space.
Exactly. These simple yet powerful techniques significantly reduce their grip over us. So for you listening, actively journaling or simply pausing to label these biases in the moment, that can help you choose how to respond rather than feeling controlled by them.
Gaining that perspective on our thoughts sounds incredibly empowering. It really does. And building on that, Dr. Smith outlines what she calls our defense players. These basic elements of self-care that are so often underestimated but are profoundly impactful. Let's start with exercise. We all know it's good for us, but what does Dr. Smith highlight about its mental health benefits and how to make it stick?
Well, she emphasizes that exercise is a potent antidepressant, boosting dopamine, increasing our capacity for pleasure. That's well known. But what really stands out is her focus on enjoyable movement for sustainability. She shares a fascinating study where people undergoing CBT for depression in a forest setting had a 61% higher remission rate than those at a hospital setting. Isn't that amazing?
Wow, 61%, just from the setting.
Yeah, it underscores that it's not necessarily about grueling workouts. It's about finding what genuinely brings you a little joy, even dancing at home for 5 minutes, and making that consistent. If it feels like a chore, we just won't stick with it long term.
That's a great distinction, finding the joy, not just the chore. Makes sense. Equally vital is sleep. Dr. Smith describes it as foundational for both physical and mental health. When one dips, the other often follows. What are her core tips here beyond just get more sleep? Because that's easier said than done sometimes.
Absolutely, and she acknowledges that. She highlights that you can't force sleep. You can only create an environment conducive to relaxation. Her advice includes getting natural light first thing in the morning, which helps regulate your circadian rhythm, keeping evening lights low, dimming screens, and crucially, tackling worries during the day, like scheduling worry time so those thoughts don't snowball into the evening when you're trying to wind down. It's about priming your brain for rest, not wrestling with it.
Scheduling worry time. That's interesting. Okay, and what about nutrition? How does she connect what we eat to how we feel?
She puts it very simply. How you feed your brain influences how you feel. Pretty direct. She points to diets like the traditional Mediterranean, Japanese, and Norwegian, which prioritize whole, unprocessed foods, healthy fats, whole grains. These show significant mental health benefits in studies. But our key takeaway isn't about drastic overhauls, which can feel overwhelming. It's the power of tiny wins. She suggests identifying one small, easy swap, maybe switching a sugary drink to water or adding a handful of nuts to your breakfast, and then consciously noting how that single choice makes you feel, building momentum from positive reinforcement rather than restriction.
Tiny wins, I like that. It feels much more achievable. Another defense player she mentions is routine, providing predictability and a sense of safety. How does she advise finding that balance? Because you want predictability, but maybe not rigidity, right? You need adventure, too.
Exactly. Dr. Smith clarifies that routine isn't about being rigid. It's about crafting anchors in your day. These provide a sense of control, especially when life feels chaotic. And the pandemic really highlighted how crucial this is for so many people. She suggests starting small, maybe with one micro-routine, like a 5-minute morning ritual, stretching, meditating, whatever works. Observe its impact before expanding. That way, you foster predictability without completely stifling spontaneity.
Anchors in the day. That's a good way to think about it. And finally, she calls human connection quite possibly the most powerful tool we have. How does she elaborate on its importance?
Oh, massively. She stresses that nurturing good relationships is foundational for mental health throughout life. It's not just nice, it's essential. And it positively impacts both the giver and the receiver of support. It's reciprocal. Her really profound insight here, I think, is that you shouldn't wait until you feel like it to connect. Often, action actually precedes the feeling. If you're feeling isolated, taking that small step to reach out, sending a text, making a call, can actually generate the positive feelings you're waiting for.
That's so true. Action first, feeling follows. We often get that backwards, don't we? We wait for this feeling of motivation to strike before we actually act. Dr. Smith says this is a major misconception. So many of us know exactly what we need to do, she writes. We just really don't feel like doing it right now. That sounds familiar.
Extremely familiar. And it's crucial here to differentiate between procrastination and anhedonia. Procrastination is when we avoid a task because it triggers stress or discomfort. That's a pretty common human experience. Anhedonia, though, is different.
It's the inability to feel pleasure from activities one once enjoyed, and it's often associated with depression. That needs a different approach. But for general lack of motivation, a really striking point she makes is that motivation isn't a prerequisite for action. It's often a byproduct of action.
A byproduct.
Yes, as she brilliantly puts it, it's that great feeling you get when you're on your way out of the gym, not on your way in.
Huh. Yes, absolutely.
Small, consistent actions build what she calls well-trodden neural pathways. They literally make desired behaviors easier and more automatic over time. So for you listening, a powerful strategy is to act opposite to urges. If you don't feel like doing something beneficial, like going for that walk or making that call, do it anyway, just a small version of it. And also, remember that regular rest and replenishment are just as vital for sustained effort. Think like elite athletes. They manage their recovery meticulously. It's part of the process.
Acting opposite to urges.
Oh, yeah.
That concept really resonates, especially thinking about how we deal with fear and anxiety. My own experience climbing the Leaning Tower of Pisa is a perfect example, like I mentioned. I have this intense fear of heights, and my overwhelming urge was to just get down, avoid looking out at the view, stay low. And sure, I felt safer huddled on the floor, but my actions didn't actually make me safer. They only reinforced the fear. Dr. Smith says this is key. Avoidance not only maintains anxiety, it actually makes it worse over time.
It feeds the fear, essentially. And placing this in a broader context, our fear response is an incredibly powerful, fast-acting survival mechanism. Think of it like a smoke alarm. Vital but.
But sometimes it gives false alarms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The goal, she explains, isn't to eliminate fear that's unrealistic and probably not even desirable. Fear keeps us safe sometimes. The goal is to change our relationship with it. Instead of avoiding, we learn to face fears in manageable ways. This allows the body to habituate, basically, to get used to this situation, gradually reducing the intensity of the fear response over time. She outlines several powerful strategies for this. Slow, deep breathing, like square breathing. You breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. This directly calms the body's physiological fight or flight response.
Okay, square breathing. Got it.
Physical movement is also important. It helps use up the energy and stress hormones, like adrenaline and cortisol, that the body produces when it perceives a threat. And, as we discussed earlier, using distanced language and thought, challenging, labeling anxious thoughts like catastrophizing, and questioning their certainty, that can be incredibly effective too.
Right. Questioning the biased guesses.
Precisely. For you listening, it's important to remember that every time we say no to something because of fear, as Dr. Smith puts it, life shrinks a little. Learning to take fear with you, acknowledging it but acting anyway, actually allows life to expand.
That's a really profound thought. Life shrinking or expanding based on how we relate to fear. Now, something related but slightly different. Many people use stress and anxiety interchangeably. Are they actually different in Dr. Smith's view?
Yeah, that's common confusion. Dr. Smith clarifies this beautifully. Stress, she explains, is primarily when our brain prepares us to do something. It releases energy to increase alertness, for a presentation, or driving in heavy traffic, or meeting a deadline. It's about meeting a demand.
Okay, so it's performance-related energy.
In a way, yes. Anxiety, on the other hand, is generally more of a fear-based response. It's often tied to excessive worry about a perceived threat, whether it's real or imagined, immediate or future. The key difference often lies in the meaning we attach to the physiological arousal, the racing heart, the quick breathing. Is it excitement for a challenge or dread of danger? She also points out that stress isn't always the enemy. We actually need a certain degree of good stress, sometimes called eustress, for a fun, challenging, and engaging life. It motivates us.
Right, we need some pressure to perform sometime.
Exactly. However, sustained chronic stress, the kind that doesn't let up, that's like driving your car on the motorway in second gear, as she puts it. It eventually leads to burnout. It negatively impacts immune function, concentration, overall mood. It wears us down.
Driving in second gear on the motorway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that paints a picture.
So for you, the goal isn't to eliminate all stress. That's impossible. It's to learn to manage it effectively, to learn how to turn the dial down when the stress response isn't needed, and crucially, to prioritize replenishment after periods of high demand. And interestingly, research shows that changing your mindset about stress viewing the physical signs as your body preparing you for a challenge rather than something awful can dramatically improve your performance and well-being.
That's a powerful reframe on stress itself. Wow. Speaking of well-being, so many of us chase happiness as the ultimate goal in life, don't we? Like, I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
But Dr. Smith explains there's a fundamental problem with just saying that. Happiness, like the weather, is constantly changing. It's often fleeting. It's a transient emotion.
Exactly. It's not a permanent state you arrive at. Which naturally leads us to ask, well, if not constant happiness, what truly sustains us, especially through difficult times? Dr. Smith emphasizes the profound importance of cultivating a meaningful life. This involves clarifying your personal values, what truly matters to you at your core, and then consciously living in line with those values, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel happy.
So it's about values, not just feelings.
Precisely. It's about, as she says, the kind of person you want to be, the contribution you want to make, and the attitude you want to face life with, no matter what happens. She says that rather than waiting for happiness at the end of some grand goal like buying a house or getting a promotion, you can find meaning and purpose right now by aligning your daily actions, even small ones, with what matters most to you. It's an active, ongoing process, completely distinct from chasing a temporary feeling.
That feels much more grounded, more sustainable. Living by values. And if we zoom out a bit, connecting this to the bigger picture, the deepest insights from long-term studies, like the famous Harvard study of adult development, they consistently confirm what many intuitively know, which is that relationships beat money, fame, social class. Good relationships are truly at the core of our overall health and happiness across the lifespan.
Absolutely. And what truly stands out here is the acknowledgement that relationships aren't always a gentle boat ride. They take work, they require values-based choices and actions, consistent effort, and a real willingness to understand each other, even when it's difficult. Dr. Smith also touches upon how our attachment styles, formed early in life, anxious, avoidant, disorganized, or secure, can significantly influence our adult relationships. Understanding that can be helpful. But a foundational insight from her work, and from relationship research in general, is the importance of turning towards each other, especially during conflict or stress, rather than turning away.
Turning towards, not away.
Yes. And for you listening, it's worth noting that all the tools for self-care we've discussed, things like self-awareness, emotional regulation, communication skills, they also serve to profoundly improve your relationships. Cultivating those skills within yourself and practicing careful repairs after disagreements, those are absolutely key to nurturing strong connections.
That's great advice for anyone striving for better connections in their life. It all connects back. Now, there's this common misconception that self-acceptance leads to laziness. You hear it sometimes, right? People think if you accept yourself, flaws and all, you'll just lose your drive. But Dr. Smith points out that the research actually shows the opposite. Those who develop self-acceptance and learn to be self-compassionate are actually less likely to fear failure. They're more likely to persevere and try again when they do fail, and generally have more robust self-confidence.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive for some, but it makes sense. A particularly fascinating point she explores is how we talk to ourselves after a setback, that inner voice. Self-criticism, especially when it descends into shame, that feeling of being inherently flawed or bad can totally immobilize us. It leads to hiding and avoidance.
Shame is paralyzing.
It really can be. Dr. Smith encourages what she calls shame resilience. It's not about trying to eliminate shame entirely, because it's a human emotion. It's about developing the capacity to move through it. This involves learning to acknowledge shame triggers, reality checking the harsh criticism, and actively challenging that relentless inner critic. For you, a powerful tool she offers is to practice becoming your own perfect nurturer or coach. Imagine someone who offers honesty and accountability, yes, but also unconditional encouragement rather than harsh judgment. How would that coach speak to you? Focus on the specific mistake as an isolated event, something to learn from, rather than allowing it to define your entire self-worth.
Being your own coach, not your own critic. That's a powerful shift in perspective and a much healthier way to approach setbacks, failures, or just everyday mistakes. Okay, finally, let's talk about when to seek professional support. Because when your mental health fluctuates, it can be even more difficult to make decisions and take action. And many people delay seeking help, maybe feeling they don't deserve it or that others have it worse. There's a lot of that internal negotiation.
There is. And Dr. Smith addresses this very directly. She unequivocally states, the short answer to this question is anytime you're concerned about your mental health. Full stop. She stresses that waiting until breaking point just makes the hill to climb a mountain. It makes recovery harder and longer. Professional help is a commitment to your health. It's an investment, and it can be genuinely life-changing. Now, so for you listening, Please don't let perceived barriers or feelings of unworthiness stop you if you're struggling. Exploring your options with a professional, or even leveraging good educational resources and strengthening those human connections we talked about is a powerful act of self-care. It's an investment in yourself, just like we discussed at the very beginning of this deep dive.
Wow, okay. Today, we've really taken a deep dive into Dr. Julie Smith's incredible mental health toolbox from Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? We've explored how our emotions, thoughts, body, and actions were all deeply intertwined. We've looked at the often overlooked power of basic self-care, the defense players, how to manage the challenges of fear and stress by changing our relationship with them, and the profound impact of living a values-driven, meaningful life.
And it's so important to remember, these are life skills, not quick fixes. None of this works overnight. They take practice, consistency, and importantly, self-compassion when you slip up, because you will. We all do. The journey isn't about eliminating challenges or difficult feelings entirely, but about building your capacity to navigate them and ultimately to flourish despite them. It's really about equipping yourself for whatever life throws your way.
That's a great summary. And to leave you with a thought from Dr. Smith that truly embodies the spirit of this deep dive, she writes, I have seen people pull themselves from the depths of despair, step back from the cliff edge, and start the work of turning their life around. It happens, and it could happen to you, not in a day or a week, but in many days and many weeks of commitment to your health and to the life you want to build. So building on this powerful idea, here's something to consider. What's one small values-aligned action you can take today? Not necessarily to achieve perfect happiness, but just to feel a little more authentically you in this very moment. What